still finding the derivatives. G of x is the cubed root of a squared minus sine squared of x. And a is a constant. Again, I forgot to write that down. I'm sorry. Before I do anything with this problem, I want to breathe. This one's going to be tricky. I've got a cubed root. I have sine squared. I have a squared. Before I take any derivatives, I want to write this in a friendlier way. The cubed root is the same thing as raising something to the 1/3 power. So I've got a squared minus, we've talked about this a lot in class, sine squared of x really means sine of x, the whole thing squared. So you would put the square outside the sine of x. So that means I've got a baby inside of a mama, inside of a mama. We've got a lot going on here. In order to take the derivative, we're going to do this in a couple of steps. Treat all this in here as your baby. Let's call that x. If it was x to the 1/3 I was taking the derivative of, the derivative would be 1/3 times all that in there, just the way it is, to the 1 less power, which is -2/3, times I still have to take the derivative of the baby. Getting to here is awesome. I'm just about guaranteeing you at least 1 point on the free response part of the exam if you can get here. But you're not done with the calculus, so you cannot stop. We have to take the derivative of a squared. Big mistake here. A lot of people are going to tell me the derivative of a squared is 2a. It's not. Since a is a constant, a squared is a constant, and what do we know about the derivative of a constant? That's 0 minus, I have to take the derivative sine of x, the whole thing squared. That's a chain rule. So I bring the 2 down in front, times sine of x, times the derivative of the sine of x is cosine of x. And in front of all this, we have 1/3 a squared minus sine of x squared to the -2/3 power. You could clean it up a little bit. 0 minus 2 times all that is the same as -2 times that. So maybe you want to write it -2 sine of x times cosine of x times a squared minus sine of x squared to the -2/3 power. Oops, I ran out of screen there. If you want to reduce it further, that -2/3 means we're going to send all this to the denominator. The 3 in the denominator tells me I'm going to take a cubed root. The 2 means I'm going to square the whole thing. I'm going to stop here because we're running out of time and I want to get through this last problem. All right, this last one, I want to simplify my final derivative as much as possible. F of theta equals theta squared sine theta. That's product rule. Minus 2 theta cosine theta. Minus 2 sine theta. I need a product rule here. And I need a product rule here. But I do not need a product rule over here. I can use that constant rule. F prime of theta, we're just right now, we're focusing on this part here. Theta squared times sine theta. You take the derivative of the first part and you leave the second one alone, plus you leave the first one alone times the derivative of the second part, derivative of the sine is cosine, minus, and this is where I want to be careful, minus I have to take the derivative of all this. So let's do something smart. Let's bring on some brackets here. 2 theta is the first part. Cosine of theta is the second part. We take the derivative of the first, which is 2, times we leave the second one alone, plus leave the first one alone, times the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine theta, minus 2 times derivative of the sine is cosine. Wowzers. Let's see if we can clean this up a little bit. We've got 2 theta times sine of theta plus theta squared cosine of theta. Let's distribute this negative 2 through the brackets. That's why I use brackets to begin with. Negative 2 cosine of theta. Over here, 2 theta times negative sine theta. That whole expression is going to be negative. Times that negative is a 2 theta sine theta minus 2 cosine theta. I think we can do even better. I think we can go a little bit further. I hope. I see. Let's take a really careful look here. 2 theta sine theta plus another 2 theta sine theta. What does that get me? 4 theta sine theta. I took care of that, and I took care of that. Plus theta squared cosine theta. I don't see any like terms there. Negative 2 cosine theta, and another negative 2 cosine theta is negative 4 cosine theta, and I think I stopped there. That's my f prime of theta right there. All right. Well, before I sign off on this video, first of all, focus on the first part of the video where we're going over just the basic derivative rules. Make sure you have all of those. If you have to spend the time getting them memorized, get them memorized. I would prefer that you've just done such a good job, you understand them, you could prove them if you needed to, you won't be asked to do that. And then these last 6 questions, these are really hard, right? Because we're mixing all the derivative rules together. If you need additional practice, well, if you check out my calculus YouTube channel, there are a video called Mixing Derivative Rules 1 and Mixing Derivative Rules 2. That's what you guys would have done when I was in Massachusetts the other week. And so there's just a whole bunch of problems that are solved out there. Good luck, and we'll do well on Thursday.